PulseChain, PulseX, eHex, Hex, the incentive token, everything is down, and it's down bad. Well, you might say that the whole crypto market is crashing and everything else is down too, but the problem is not just with the price. There is a problem from a fundamental perspective because we were advertised a much better product. People waited for 2 years to get access to their money, to get a flawless operating blockchain. They invested early so that they will have an edge against everybody else when the chain is launched. The PulseX buy and burn feature was going to be super bullish and drive the price up massively, but unfortunately none of this happened. Instead, we got a massive confusion within the first week, clogged the bridge, people literally waited for days to bridge their assets, the low fees on PulseChain turned out they are not actually low, there was a bug in the PulseX code that was burning 100% of the fees and not 21% instead. Suddenly people realized that there is no way to onboard new people because they need PLS to make a transaction, but the only way to buy PLS was on PulseX, and you need PLS for the gas. The world's largest airdrop is actually not the world's largest airdrop, simply because PulseChain is not the first hard fork of Ethereum. Richard Hart very casually tweeted that people chose Hex on the PulseChain side over eHex as the price of Hex on PulseChain is higher, which caused an even bigger sell-off. And I can keep going with the bad stuff because there's quite a lot, but my point is that the price of all Richard Hart projects is not down because of the bad market environment, but because of the many issues that I pointed out. And I can totally agree that things like the clogged up bridge, the bug on PulseX code that was not a big of a deal at all, the confusion in the beginning, and the inability to buy PLS so you can make transactions within the ecosystem will be easily forgotten, and it will not affect the projects in the future. However, this caused the price to crash in the short term, and the weakness after the centralized exchange listings, where essentially new people could buy PLS with USDT, just says it all. And two things cannot go out of my head as long-term issues. First, the PulseX buy and burn feature is not as bullish as most people thought would be, and second, the gas prices on PulseChain won't be cheap by any means. Now you might say that the current prices are actually pennies, but not too long ago the prices were like 10 times higher, and I see people speculate that if PulseChain does 100x or 200x or whatever, the gas prices will also be 100 times higher, and the diehard hexicans rush to say that the price of the token has nothing to do with the gas price, because when the price rises the number of tokens used will automatically adjust, but in reality the higher the volume is, the higher the gas fees will be, and the higher the volume, the higher the price. So when the price goes up, you'll have to pay significantly more for gas fees because of the correlation between the volume and price. In order for the price to jump 100x, there must be much more people than now, and more people means more transactions, which leads to higher fees. So I don't think I have to explain that further, since a few weeks ago everybody saw how much were the gas prices when there was a lot of action going on, and the same goes for the PulseX buy and burn feature. The algorithm was burning 100% of the transaction fees for quite some time, and there was literally zero impact on the price. So you might say that in the long term is bullish, but you have to keep in mind that now it's at its original buy and burn rate. Also, there is a lot of FUD going on and people speculate that eHex is dead and the price is melting every single day. Ironically, the eHex price drags down the price of the rest of the tokens and the whole ecosystem bleeds. Now I must clarify that my position about eHex was that I do not see any reason why people would choose to invest in eHex over Hex on the PulseChain side, since it's going to provide a much better buying opportunity, the gas fees will be much lower, and people won't have to pay $500 to end their stake, and the token will be within the Richard Hart's own blockchain. The code is the same, the functionality is the same, and I was not seeing any reason for people to stick to eHex. Well, at least the majority. It's not like everybody will just dump their bag and eHex will go to zero. However, there was a lot of missing pieces before PulseChain was launched, and now we got them. So in my opinion, the low gas fees narrative is just slowly fading, and people won't choose Hex on the PulseChain side over eHex because of that. Also, the better buying opportunity narrative is fading as well, since the market cap of both tokens doesn't have any significant difference now. Moreover, eHex is looking really weak here, testing this support multiple times without any bounces, and I think there is a high probability that this support won't hold for long, and we will see lower prices in the near future. I have absolutely no idea how low the price can go, and I have marked on the chart the big payday drop here just as a reference. But to be completely honest, if this 1.5 cents or whatever was the bottom for eHex, I don't see huge returns for the investors in the next bull market, so the price dropping this low might be painful, but 100x returns and beyond on eHex without this drop would have been a mirage if you ask me. So I think this is actually very good for the project in terms of potential future returns, but my main concern remains that Richard Hart now has too many projects, and there should be so much more billions in the ecosystem ecosystem to move the price up to really decent highs. So to be completely honest, I do not expect a spectacular performance from either of these tokens individually because of that. And moreover, you can see that they basically all move in the same direction at the same time. So they are highly correlated, and probably the one with the lowest market cap will make the biggest gains. But now in the short term, the charts are really looking ugly and all the coins are showing a lot of weakness. So I just simply expect further downside price action. And if I take the PLS chart for example, because they pretty much look the same, so it doesn't matter which one I'm going to pick, they're almost identical. If we look at the chart, what do we see? We see a double top here, the market was unable to put a higher high, and that marked the end of the uptrend. So the price found support here at this level, bounced a little bit, then we got back to test the support again, but failed to hold it, and basically broke down without the bulls putting any real fight. The price went up to test this previous support level that now turned into resistance, but was unable to break out and pull back to another level, forming a lower low. Then the price saw a good bounce at this level and tested this major resistance one more time, but again it failed to break out and the price went back to the previous support, which didn't hold at all, and the price went straight down to the next one. It found it down here, forming another lower low, and the price went back up to test this previous support that is now resistance. As you can see, the price broke the resistance and went for a test of this significant area one more time, but this time it didn't even manage to reach this resistance level before it goes back down. Then it went back to test this support zone, but again it broke down pretty easily, showing a lot of weakness, and shortly after retested it, but the price rejected the area and went back to this previous support. However, the price bounced a little bit from this level, but the bounce was too weak and the price went below this level, where it retested it shortly after but failed to break out and went lower, putting another lower low. Now the price is testing this resistance, and I expect something like this to play out, where we will see a rejection at first, a little pullback, retest again and probably break out. The price will go back down to retest this area as support this time, and probably will fail to hold it and it will break down again. Then another retest of the area, this time as resistance, and probably will see a rejection considering the overall downtrend and weakness, which will lead to lower prices and basically going lower than the previous low, which corresponds to the generational wealth buying zone down here. Now this is what I think will play out, and to be honest I hope for, because the quicker we go down, the less the pain will be. The more time we spend in this range shopping around, people will get even more frustrated and leave the ecosystem, the long-term holders will be in pain, and etc. So this might be a too short version, because as you can see, based on my drawing, this will happen basically by the end of June, but in reality this might happen by the end of the year. Of course, there are many factors that I can't take into consideration in my prediction, such as Richard Hart actually starts streaming and basically pumping the price here and there, or the Fed printing a couple of $1 million and markets pump for a while, but I think this will play out more or less sooner or later. Because if you watch the last FOMC meeting, Jerome Powell paused the rate hiking, but the markets didn't pump simply because he said something very important and very bearish, and that was that they will not start cutting the rates in the next couple of years. In the next couple of years. Do you know what that means? The first rate hike started 1 year ago, and we can see after 1 year a couple of banks went down just like that, and they were not some tiny banks but one of the biggest banks in the US. Imagine holding this high rate not for a couple of years but just for another year. The consequences will be catastrophic. So we might see a few pumps here and there, but I think we are definitely heading lower, and we will visit this supply zone sooner or later. Of course, there is always a possibility to go even lower, but this would be an amazing buying opportunity, and anything lower would be a gift in my opinion. And like I said, that's pretty much valid for the rest of the Richard Hart coins as well, because the charts are almost identical. Now I must say that I'm currently bearish because the situation looks bearish at the moment. I can't be bullish when the price does this, so I'm not making this video to tell you that eHex is done or any other coin is done, but to show you my general outlook and what I do expect to happen in the next couple of months. Things don't look pretty at the moment. Bitcoin is showing weakness and it is trading in this channel going down since April, and the macro environment doesn't suggest any bullishness anytime soon. So like I said, without going this low, I couldn't see eHex, PulseChain, PulseX and etc. making hundreds of X's in the next bull run. So if you believe in these projects, you have a chance to buy very low right now, but personally I will wait for lower prices because I think Bitcoin will continue to go down and drag the whole crypto market with it. But just to clarify, none of this is financial advice. This is just my opinion and I do not advise anyone to do whatever. I think the whole launch was disappointing, but this ultimately won't affect the projects in the long term. However, if I have to be 100% objective, which I always try to be, PulseChain doesn't provide something that is unheard of. There are so many layer 1 ones out there that are much more innovative, much faster, cheaper and better overall. So I do not expect PulseChain to reach the top 10 or something like that, but I can definitely see making 100x in the next bull run or something like that. It depends on how low it will go, because in a bull market everything is pumping and this community is actually quite strong. I am definitely bearish in the short term, not as bullish as I was before in the long term, but the projects won't die and a lot of money will be made. So that's how I generally see the things. I hope you like the content and consider subscribing if you wanna see more in the future. Thank you guys for watching and I'll see you in the next one.